when Peter was in the back room the other day, I want to not go too long here because I said it. There are so many components of having someone like Peter, not only as in the community and as a Dream Team member, but also as a partner in the company now, and being able to pick up the phone literally any hour, because he's like us, and just ask a question for 5 or 10 minutes. It's invaluable. And the High Six don't have that availability, but they have scheduled calls. That is incredible. I want to have you guys help us welcome up Peter, because look, for him to get on a plane and fly here with Nina, it's not an easy task. I said to Peter just 2 seconds ago, as part of your, for lack of a better word, opening, please make sure you share where you came from, because there's not a person in the room that can't relate to where he came from, because we were there. Peter, if you could just kick off with that. It's going to open up a lot of questions, I'm sure.
No, right on. I'm going to start with Nina. So look, I have a lake home in Minnesota. I'm literally transitioning. I'm thankful to be here today with all of you, and so much energy, and everyone's so inspired and so motivated, and most importantly, so ambitious. But I was transitioning to Miami, where I spent about 8 months of the year, and this just worked out. So she's part of my luggage. She's a good travel mate, so she's. I had to bring her down here. When I left the room last night, she started barking, so I knew I had to bring her. So, little background on myself. Look, everyone has a story. Mine, it may be, some of the dynamics may be a little bit different, but for me, I grew up poor, all right? And I love sharing context. I grew up youngest of 7 kids. I lived in a small little town in Wilmer, Minnesota. I went to a 2-room schoolhouse. My father had a small grocery store in my hometown. And my first job, she's yawning, she's already bored. My first job was selling popcorn at my father's grocery store. And from there, I had opportunity. So I'm not going to take you through all of my success, but I'll tell you, I went from that place to feeling like I didn't know where I fit in. I quit college. So, I mean, I always say, if I was a stock, you would have shorted me for sure. Okay, but I had my first opportunity, and I took that opportunity and I ran with it. You're okay, Nina. I took that opportunity and I ran with it into building one of the largest wellness brands in the world. Chris, God bless him, he had the numbers wrong. You know, I built a $200 million company. So, but who's counting, right? 40, 80, it doesn't matter. You know, when you get above a certain point, you can't spend it anyway. So before I take questions, another thing I want to say, regardless of how successful you are, one thing that I hope that you remember about me is humility. I never forget, money doesn't make the man. In fact, yes, I have some great toys. You would never know it. If you met me on the street, you would never know it. You know, I'm a blue jean t-shirt guy. I can dress up. I dressed up for you today, by the way. I did dress up for you today.
He's already in Miami with
but
that
normally,
picture.
but I do that because I'm so comfortable with who I am and where I came from, and I learned that from my father. Okay, one of the things I want to share. I'm here today because of these 2 guys. They're friends of mine. Yes, we're business partners, but they're friends of mine. And I have the opportunity to have a front row seat to see how these guys care. I listen to the calls. I see them interact. They're not just here selling. You know what they're selling. I always say, you're not selling. You're awarding opportunities. Okay, and you have to pay the ante. That's the price of poker. All right, but to get into something like this, whether it's no money down or a little money down, these guys have got a financing vehicle now where they can help you with that. But most importantly, to have somebody that you can pivot to. I never had that. Having someone that you can pivot to and say, look, I've got this question. The gentleman that was up here earlier had somebody fill out the paperwork for him on his first deal. Hey, look, you're not going to get the Heisman from anyone here. You ask a question, you're going to get answers. You're going to get people leaning in. That's what I love about these guys. These guys don't have to be here. They're hardworking. They're successful guys. Their entire team, everybody's drinking the Kool-Aid. Everybody is in. Everybody is committed to the vision of the growth. So that's what you get when you join this fraternity. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm here because I'm a friend, but I'm just sharing with you what I see, and what I see is real, and that's what I appreciate, and that's why I'm here today. So with that said, I
got a couple things I want to tie in here. So Brian talked, a lot of us talked about the importance of connections, right? How we met Peter, I know Zach's going to want to tell this. I'm gonna try to circumvent, because you crack up at this one. Remember how we met Peter and what you said?
No.
Okay. So we get this.
Those stories that I don't know.
We had a podcast scheduled. And,
Oh, yeah.
And I look each week.
It is good. It
Each
is
week
good.
I say, all right, who's my podcast guest? Are they going to do video or audio? You know, are they important? So I get this podcast guest sheet. It says Peter Taunton built the largest fitness brand in the world. So I say to V, who's this guy? Why are we having a podcast? He built a fitness brand. And then we dug in, and of course it's an amazing story. But that's how we met. Before any of this took place, it was just on a podcast. So the value of relationships, we could go on and on with this. Zach contributed hundreds of millions of dollars to it, but that's how we met, on a simple podcast that I almost didn't do.
Luckily, I was there.
Right?
Because we wouldn't be all hanging out. Because he goes, yeah, I don't know, check this guy out. He's got like a gym or something. That's what he said. So he's got like a gym or something. Why is he on our podcast? Wait. I was like, did you check it out? Because I think we should have him on. And here we go. Here we are.
Funny how the world works, right? Funny how the world works.
All meant to be in my book.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we can run some mics. You guys, you know the deal. Raise your hand, and we'll pass the mic out. Peter doesn't care what question you ask.
I was just going to say, nothing's off the table, okay? Nothing's off the table, so ask me anything. Believe me, there's not a question I haven't had answered. I haven't had asked. Fire away, yeah, go for it.
Number 4. Hello? There we
Yep.
go.
I got you.
Peter, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
No,
Michael
it's my
Thompson
pleasure.
here. My question is, how do you balance kind of that dichotomy between hiring, because a lot of people in here are trying to leave their job, their W-2 job. So how do you balance that between hiring a bunch of people to help you in your business in a W-2 position versus also empowering them to be entrepreneurial?
Well, that's a great question. Many of the companies that I've built, I've bootstrapped, and I can tell you this: the first employees that you hire are the most critical. And in today's day and age, you've got to be careful, because some people, they say, well, what's my title? And you know, I'm a little. These guys know me. You guys are just starting to know me. I'm a little bit of a cowboy at heart, and when people say, what's my title? I say, what do you mean, what's your title? Your title isn't really anything that I ask you to do, and I wouldn't ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. So you've got to have that type of people. I always say like Navy SEAL type employees. Doesn't matter man or woman, but you got to have people that are willing to pull deep on the oars. Now, your job as an owner is to create a vision and a narrative that people can understand and they can follow, because people can't follow what they can't see. All right? So if people are scattered or fragmented or confused, it's because they don't understand. All right? So to me, your first employees are the most critical, and then make sure that when you start adding human capital, hiring people, that it's okay to push people. I don't say push them till the lug nuts come off. Okay? It's not that. But the wheel shaking is not a bad thing, okay? And whenever I'm doing that, I'm launching a brand right now. And look, the wheels are a little shaky right now. And when I see people panicking a little bit, I kind of smile and I say, this is what being an entrepreneur is. I mean, do you love it? I tell them, this is having a front row seat to the American dream, because I'm going to build another $100, $200 million company. I know that I will. And these guys, these first employees, I said, you have a front row seat to the American dream. You're going to live it. And then I'll bring on additional capital. But you know, don't be quick to hire. Don't be quick to fill out a big team with no cash flow. Because when you're short on cash flow, then what do you have to do? You have to go out and start raising money, which is a whole other discussion. Okay, I hope that gave you some insight. I know she was here. Yes. Go ahead, honey. I got you right here.
Hi. I'd like to know, when it comes down to entrepreneurialism, everybody fails forward. Where have you failed forward?
Oh man, every time. I tell you what, and you know, as cliche as it is, if you're not failing, you're not trying. You're not trying. I mean, honestly, failure is where all the growth is. It's so true. Failure, anyone can run a company with the wind at their back. Anyone can. Okay? How are you in times of crisis? How are you when interest rates are high or you're going into recession? I mean, people are pinching pennies, everything. I mean, think about me. I had one of the largest wellness brands in the world, still do, 6,000 some odd locations. And when COVID hit, we had every location across the world. We're in 28 countries. Every club across the world was closed, worldwide. I mean, you talk about, you know, if you don't pucker at that point, right? I mean, and cash flow, we burned through more cash But that's the price of poker. Welcome to the big leagues. You don't, and in times of crisis, that's not times of panic. If you're a leader, all of you guys are leaders, or you aspire to be a leader. In times of crisis, that's not when you curl up in the fetal position under your desk. Okay? That's not when you're kicking the garbage can, raising your voice. At times of crisis is when people turn and they're looking to you and they're looking for direction. So make no mistake about what your role is as a leader and as an entrepreneur. You got to own it. Okay? Sometimes you can leave early from work. You can go golf, you take fancy trips, you do whatever comes with some of that responsibility. But when shit hits the fan, you got to be accountable to everyone around you. Those are tough decisions to make. So I always fail and I always learn from it. I just try not to repeat it. Yes, sir, right here.
It's coming, Paul.
Just talk?
No,
No,
don't
no,
just
no,
talk.
no,
Okay,
Paul.
all right. So how should I stand, or I don't know?
You do whatever
how
you
far-
want.
you're good.
However
Okay,
you're
well,
feeling.
All right. So how important is single-mindedness? Because I've heard on one hand, there's the book, The One Thing, and you can't hunt two different rabbits at the same time. On the other hand, I hear entrepreneurs who have multiple businesses going. So do you focus on one business at a time, for 2 months straight, and then get that kind of going stable, and then you focus on another business? Or is it possible to do 4 hours in the morning and four hours in the afternoon on two different businesses?
More importantly, at an early stage.
Yeah.
He's an attorney and has this.
I think everyone's threshold is a little bit different on what their capacity is. For me, as an example, if I'm focusing on, if it's my first business, that's the one I'm focusing on. And if I'm betting the farm, because the most expensive capital I can get is myself, my human capital, me, okay? Because I'm taking my time. Look, it doesn't matter how much you have. We all get 24 in a day. You can't buy more and you don't get less. So you got to use them wisely. So for me, the first venture that I'm going into, for all of you, if you're going to get into the real estate play, it's okay to keep your day job and do this as a side hustle, but as soon as you start doing a deal and you start equating to the amount of time that it takes and the amount of capital or cash that you can raise, how much revenue you can generate, pretty soon you start looking at it and saying, look, I can make more money doing this. And then once you start getting the capital, once you start making the money, then you can start thinking about how can I expand my resources. It's just like these guys. They have employees in their office. Why? They have people doing different jobs so they can focus on what's driving the business. Salespeople all the time, they say, hey, Peter, I need to make more money. And I say, well, tell me what you're doing. It boils right down to they do 3 days of cold calls and 2 days of closing. All right? And I tell them, okay, well, let's get more people to do the calling for you and you spend more time closing. I can't tell you the amount of time people say, Peter, I doubled my income. Why? Because they hired 2 or 3 people that are just dialing for dollars, setting up appointments, and now all that person does is close. Okay? So look at your business. Not every day, but for damn sure, once a month, you need to sit back and do an evaluation of yourself. How much of your time are you spending? And what are the big movers? Don't get bogged down in the granular minutia that doesn't move the needle, that's not moving the ball, okay? And sometimes it's that minutia is where the comfort is for you. Why? Because there's not a lot of stress there. It's just the mundane, day-to-day. You start it in the morning and you look at your clock, it's 3 or 4 in the afternoon, right? And before you know it, the week's gone by, the month's gone by, and you're still sitting there talking about what you were going to do, the pivot you were going to make, 3 months later, 6 months later, a year later. I can tell you, I work with it all the time. And I get real with people, and I hope that they appreciate it. I say, look, we've been sharing the same narrative for a year. And here's the reality. Making a pivot, it's scary. Okay, leaving your day job, leaving your job, that place of comfort, that's a scary proposition because it's all you've ever known. And whenever things get a little bumpy, you start doubting yourself. You start thinking, you know what, I should have never left. Okay, look, that's part of the journey, okay? Look, pivot doesn't come without a little bit of anxiety. Look, it's not divine intervention. It's not God telling you, don't do this. Okay, God doesn't work that way. I'm a Christian. God doesn't work that way. Don't do it. It's not it. When you're pivoting into something that you've never done before, a normal reaction is you're going to have a little anxiety. Why? Because you're doing something you've never done before. Okay, if you don't have that level, that moment of pause, you're kidding yourself, you're fooling yourself. Or you haven't really weighed what you're going into. So just understand that that anxiety that you're feeling, it's perfectly okay. And I promise you, it'll go away. It'll go away. Once you get a few deals under your belt or whatever it is that you're doing, once you get in and get settled in, you're going to be fine. But when you make that change, you got to understand there's going to be these moments of uncertainty, and that's okay. That's part of the journey. Embrace it and keep plowing forward. I hope that helped.
Right here?
Yeah.
You can just pass it?
I got it.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah.
Don't stand, Brian.
I'm not.
Nobody will be able to see.
Hey, Peter.
Hey, buddy.
Peter, you started talking about having to shut down all the locations for COVID. I'd love to hear the rest of that story. What were the leadership decisions that you made to turn it around, and what was the end result?
Well, it was an expensive decision, and for us, our franchise, our locations couldn't charge their members because the clubs were closed. So naturally, you wouldn't charge your members for a service they couldn't redeem. And I can't hardly charge the franchisee if they're not charging. I mean, the whole, you just got to follow the money. And if they're not making money, I can't take their money, even though it was within my legal right to do it. But that's not the right thing to do. So, at the end of the day, it's how do you want to show up every day? How do you want to show up? How do you want to lead? And doing the right thing. To me, it was a no-brainer. We don't charge. We're going to try to find what we can do to help try to turn the tide on COVID. And then even when they said, okay, it's okay to go back to work out, it's still, people didn't just freely walk in. We had to overtly change the way we did our business. We used to do our cleaning after hours, okay? We were doing our cleaning in the middle of the day. So people could look at us with their masks on, thinking, okay, well, these guys, they're taking it serious because they're spraying down everything. Everything's disinfected. I mean, everybody's walking around like this, like a doctor, for crying out loud. It was just insane, right? But we burned millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars it cost us. But once again, no one saw it coming. Thank God. That's why a whole other discussion. Don't over-lever yourself, because in times of unpredictability, being over-levered can completely blindside you. For us, we had plenty of cash. We weathered the storm, and now we're coming back the other way. Yeah, but it was a character builder, that's for sure.
Go ahead, Tony.
Hey, Peter. I had a question that kind of built on when you talked about the angst and the.
Where are you? I don't see
Right
you.
here.
Oh, there you are. Hey,
Stand
brother.
up, Tony.
Hey, no,
You-
I saw you. I'd been visited with him last night a bit.
Yeah. So when you started to first start out your company, you started building, you started to see that momentum, you started to see what that possibility was for yourself and for your company. When those times of angst and that disbelief started to settle in at some point in time along your journey, how did you handle it and how did you get through it?
Well, the journey, as I said, it's, for me, how did I get through it? It's, I learned a lesson early on from my father in that grocery store they had in the small town. And I didn't know that some of the lessons that I would learn at 8 years old would carry through to the man that I am today. But one thing that I noticed about my dad is he never put himself above any job. And you would see him, he's the owner of the grocery store, but you would see him stocking shelves, you would see him at the checkout stand, you would see him carrying out groceries, you'd see him shoveling the sidewalk and doing the books, okay? He did everything. And with his employees, they would walk on fire for that man because they knew that this guy he'd get in the trenches with you. He would get in the, if your aisle if you need help keeping the shelves full, my dad would get right in there and he would help. Everybody would pitch in. So it was this unity that he had. And I think if you want to go from good to great, especially in building a company, you've got to get people that are going to go to battle for you. All right? And you know what? It's not about money, because if you got to give everyone a raise to get performance out of them, you've got the wrong people. Okay, and that's a mistake that a lot of people make. In fact, some of the people that come in, they say, hey, look, this is the title that I need because I left this job and I was this title here, so I need to feel like I'm moving up, and with that move up needs to be additional compensation. When you get into that slippery slope with people, that's very difficult because you're always chasing it. Then to me, you gotta say, look, here's what we're trying to do. Here's the vision. Here's the path here's the course that we're charting, and it's going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And people aspire to be part of that. Now, another thing for me, I give my employees equity in every company that I build. And I do that because I say, look, I don't know. I mean, this concept I'm launching right now, nautical bowls, it's an acai bowl concept. Every one of my employees has equity in that company, okay? I carve off 5% of the company, and I put it off to the side. Now, here's my rule, though. In order to get paid on this, you got to be there. Your butt has got to be in the seat in order to participate when I exit the business, because I'll exit in about 5 years. I'll take my first bite of the apple, and then I'll grow it some more, and I'll take another bite of the apple. That's typically what I do. I typically take 2 to 3 exits of a company because I'm growing it along the way. But I always think it's the pertinent thing as an entrepreneur is to take some chips off the table when it's a meaningful number for yourself. But the reason I require them to stay in the seat is because human capital, if you're in a company and you're constantly churning capital, human capital, you got to hire, you got to train, it just slows the whole process down. But if you can incentivize them, and keep in mind, they're chasing the same rainbow you are. They know, hey, look, what's my vision? My dream is, I'm not doing this to build 50 stores. You know, I want to build the largest acai concept in the country. That's what I intend to do. And I think that I'll be the largest in the country in 3 years, giving other people a 7-year head start. Hey, look, it's not a race, but I know how to do it. And they know that if I'm successful at that, it's a $100+ million company. They own 5%, it's $5 million. Spread that across, at the time, it'll probably be 15 to 20 employees. It'll be meaningful for them. They make a fair wage today, but believe me, that check that they get at the end, I mean, it's real money. It's 6-figure money for them. It's real money. So
Peter,
I hope that helps.
I'm curious, I never asked you this. First, I don't know, 6 months or 12 months in sales in that new venture. What was the number?
Well, you know what? It was me doing the selling, and my oldest son, he's 27, because I knew how to sell and I knew how to create the narrative that would inspire people. And when I talked to them, I said, look, I may be the CEO of Nautical Bowls, but I'm talking to you today as a Forbes. I'm a Forbes Masterclass instructor, for those of you that don't know that. So I talk to people all the time about business and opportunity and how to create real wealth and how to create balance in your life. And I tell them, hey, look, I'm talking to you today with my Forbes hat on. I want you to know straight up, you're not going to hurt my, if this is not for you, if we're not a good fit, if you're not a good fit for us and I'm not a good fit for you, it's okay, we'll part ways as friends, it's all right. So I just disarm everything. I say, look, this is what I love about the opportunity. And when I'm looking at a business, guys, here's what I ask myself. Number one, how much cash is required to get into this business? Which is why I like this business, by the way. How much cash is required to get into this business? Number one. Number two, how does the business perform? And the third question, how much of my time is it going to take? Those are 3 questions that I ask myself on any venture that I'm going to get into. And it doesn't matter, believe me, I'm all over the board from, I own a luxury camp in the Serengeti to real estate. I'm all over the place. But I ask myself those questions every venture I get into. So I have ADD, by the way, if you didn't notice, so I'll jump around on you.
Every bit is valuable.
Yes.
I'll jump all over.
Yeah, but those are the
I
best
promise you.
nuggets when you're free flowing.
No, that's right. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. What's your morning routine, and which part of that morning routine would you say best gets you ready for the rest of your day?
Well, I'm a work in progress for sure, but I start my day, I have a cup of coffee. I don't leave my bedroom without my workout gear on, okay, because I know myself. If I don't get my workout in the morning, like if I say, look, I'm not gonna train this morning, I'm gonna do it later this afternoon, I'm a great salesman. I'll talk myself out of it throughout the day. I'll work on it. So I know I don't leave my room without my workout gear on. And then I go downstairs and I make a cup of coffee and I sit and I reflect. It's not meditation because with my head I can't meditate, okay? Which is a whole other story. The lady tried to teach me how to meditate and I said, I'm not getting it, it's not working for me. She says, well, tell me what you're doing. I said, well, I'm driving in my car and I've got the tape on. And she goes, explains it right there. She goes, no, you gotta go in a quiet room, padded room, preferably whatever. So, anyway, so I get up, I have my coffee, and I reflect. What do I reflect on? I reflect. Like I say, I'm a Christian, so I say my prayers like I did when I was a little boy, okay? So it's not, I'm sure God, most of the time, is rolling his eyes at me. I promise you, okay? I promise you. So, but I say, hey, thanks. And something that I struggle with often is I say, look, why me? I mean, and that's a real question. Why me? How did I end up here, right? The young kid, youngest of 7, went to a 2-room schoolhouse, quit college, ADD, shy. How did I go from that to private jets and yachts and multiple homes? And so I say, you clearly have a plan. So that's why I love doing things like this. I love talking to young entrepreneurs. In fact, with Forbes, they roll their eyes at me. You get the theme. A lot of people roll their eyes at me, but with Forbes, I tell them, look, if it's young entrepreneurs, I work for free, okay? But if you're a company, I'm $1,000 an hour, and I'll only give you 2 days. And I was sharing this with one of the gentlemen last night, but I'll give you 2 days of my time. And if I have an interest in your company, if I really love it, then I'll work with it for equity in the company. And that's what I do. And I do that 2 or 3 times a year. And now this last one that I'm doing, the Nautical Bulls, now on that one, that's a bigger bite. I'm equal partners with the founders. But I say, look, I'm going to run the company. And that's exactly what I'm going to do, because I looked at that and I said, this is something that I can do, and it'll be as meaningful as you know, the last 20 years of my life. You know, I can double what I have. Not that money's everything, but I look at it now and I say, look, and my kids say, geez, Dad, because I said, look, I'm not working for me now. You know what I mean? It's not my money. How much do you need, right? I mean, so it's not going to affect my lifestyle, whatever it is that I do. So what I do now, it goes for a legacy, and my philanthropic endeavors to make a difference. That's how I say it all the time. How do you want to show up? Because if it's all about you, I promise that train will end.
So Peter, we got from coffee to meditation. What do you do after meditation or reflection?
Yeah, I just start my day. I mean, for my day, you know, after coffee and after that, then I spend most of my day making calls, answering calls, doing interviews, doing stuff like this, but always productive. And then balance too. You know what? I have balance in my life. I work on myself. I work on my business. You know, I work time with my family and friends. So otherwise, I've got to watch that, just like maybe many of you do, where it seems like all you're doing is it's like a one-legged stool, right? It's always tipping over because you're just so focused on doing one thing, and the household suffers. So I try to find balance. I keep myself in check where I can. But once again, I don't take myself too seriously. You know, I love my life. I love people. I love to see the good in people. I don't get wrapped up in the drama. I'm kind of a no drama guy, because I've been through so much and I've seen so much. I know that it just doesn't pay dividends, and it's not worth the heartache, the heartburn, if that makes any sense. So that's a around the woods answer to your short question.
A lot of nuggets.
You'd be patient. You knew I'd finally get there after a while. Yeah, hi.
Hi, Peter. My name is Michelle. I just had a question. You mentioned earlier about being accountable as a leader. Can you kind of go more into depth as to what do you do, or who do you speak to as far as your mentors and things that got you to this place as a leader?
I'm sure. I think with experience comes knowledge, and I hope that it's true for all of us in everything that we do. And I know this. The leadership style, you know, quiet, subdued, meek, doesn't work for me personally. Just like the antithesis of that, screaming, kicking the garbage can, and you know, raising hell all the time doesn't do it either. So somewhere between there is the balance. But I think if you're going to lead, you have to have enough product knowledge within every department of whatever it is the business that you're operating. So you have to have a knowledge about everything. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. Understand that. If you think you're the smartest person in the room, you're in trouble already. I'm great. I look at myself as like a casting director. I cast people in great roles, okay, that I think matches their skill set. So for me, I know enough about each of the divisions, and what I don't know, like for instance, what I'm in now, the food business, Nautical Bowls. I've never owned a restaurant before. Okay, but the fundamentals of driving a successful company and the leadership qualities, it doesn't matter what I'm running. I'm going to get the most out of my people, and people are going to be inspired. And they're going to see me move the needle, okay? And they're going to see that the me moving the needle, it isn't me at all, it's we, right? Because everyone is staying in their lane, and everyone is focused on their job at hand. And that's the other art of leading, is it's not, you can't lead by a consensus. Hey, everybody, what do you think? Okay? That's not leading, okay? You got to be tough. I always say don't mistake kindness for weakness. But for me, if I'm going to make a decision, a material decision about a company, about the company, I'll bring the people in within my company that are VP level, and I'll go around the table. I'm not gonna voice my opinion first, because it'd be funny how that works. As soon as I say my opinion, I'll be damned if everybody doesn't like it, right? So I'm the last to speak. And I say, look, here's what I want to talk about today. I'd love to get everyone's input. Even though in many cases I've already made my mind up. But then I'll go around the table and I'll see. And you'll be amazed at what that does, okay? Because everyone feels like they're contributing. And then I'll say, look, I appreciate everyone's input. Here's what we're going to do. And then I explain to them what we're going to do. Sometimes I take bits and pieces from what they're saying. But I say, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're moving forward. Any questions? Okay, so everybody leaves there knowing, it's a drop the mic moment. This is the direction that we're going to go. Here's why we're going this way. Does everyone understand? I didn't ask if everyone agrees. Okay, that's not it, because that's why I'm running the company and you're not, right? Now, if you grow the company from an idea to 100 or 1,000 locations, you've got validation. You know what you're doing, right? Consensus never works. Yes, hi.
Do you have a mic?
I got a
Somebody
mic,
have
Dave.
All right, and then
Thanks.
We'll do him, and then you'll get the mic.
All right, so congrats on your success first off, and that's a big takeaway, what you just said about getting their opinions first and then giving yours. I thought that was amazing. But my question is with regards to them, I'm going to assume there's a few key people in your life that have helped you to get where you're at. And my question is, how do you find those people, and then what are you looking for in those people?
There's no question the biggest influence in my life was my father. And my father, who's 93, he's a stud. He's a rancher in South Dakota. But my dad was an old school guy, at least technical guy that you'll know, one of the tightest men you'll ever meet. I'm sure he still has the first dollar he ever made, I promise you. But he's a man's man, and the one thing that you can't take from him is his moral fiber, his character. And character will carry you a long way. It really will. I mean, if you have critical thinking skills and the character to lead and be honest and drive and ambitious, when you have those things together, you're going to go a long way. And I happen to have had a front row seat to that as a small boy with my father. Now, other people that I've worked with, I probably have 10 or 12 people that I've worked with in my 35-year business career that I would take to battle with me anywhere. In fact, this morning I was on a call with one of them. It was a woman who led my marketing department in the last company that I had. She since went home, stay-at-home mom, has two small boys. And I called her, and she goes, "Well, I never thought about it. And I'm so impressed that you called." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, you want to come? You want to come and go to work? You can work from home, right? Why do I do that? Because I know she's a doer, right? And I've got 10 or 12 people that are like that. They're just doers, man. I don't have to babysit them. They know the cadence of what's expected of them. And they also know the cadence of how the trajectory of the growth of the company will likely go. It's not guaranteed, but the probability. I built 3 brands to over 1,000 locations in my 20-year career, so the chances are pretty good. I'm gonna do it a 4th time.
Was there a time that you had to find somebody like that?
Mike, Dave, for the recording.
No, I heard he asked.
My question is, was there a time in your life where you had to go find this person? What was your process?
You know what? I didn't, and maybe I got lucky. I have an identical twin, and that would be where I bounce ideas off. And that's an important message, an important thought in its own right. Be damn careful of who you're bouncing your ideas off. Okay? Because I can't tell you the amount of time that you bounce an idea. These people that are supposed to be in your group, your network, okay, and you're throwing something out there, you're kind of excited about it, and you're waiting for a response. You're hoping they'll say, "That's ingenious, I love it." Instead, they go, I wouldn't do it. You're crazy. Okay? Now, these are the people that you trust, right? And look, some people are just not risk takers. It's okay, it doesn't make them bad people, but just because they wouldn't do it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. Okay? You know how many times people have come up to me and said, you know what, Peter? I was going to do that. Right? I thought of that. I was going to do it. Right? Doesn't count. Woulda, coulda, didn't. All right? That's it. So get people that you can bounce ideas off of. And you know, the other side of it too is you don't want people, I'm just going to be candid with you, you don't want people that are just going to blow sunshine up your ass all day. Okay, that isn't it either. You know what I mean? Get real people who are going to be real with you and say, God, you know, I kind of like where you're going with that, but here's what I would do. And that's what I love about my twin is we're like-minded, and he'll say, yeah, you know what, and sometimes he'll go, you know, I would spin it this way, or I would do this, or I would do that, and it works. So just the bottom line is, maybe I got lucky. I didn't have this big circle of resources of Harvard grads that I could lean on. That was just not there for me. But obviously, which is a great lesson for all of you, you don't need it. Okay? I built 3 of the largest franchise brands ever created. You know, just so you know, if you have a franchise brand and you have 100 locations, you know that you're in the top 1% of any franchise that's ever been created. 100 locations, you're in the top 1%. Okay? This 2-room schoolhouse guy 3 times built 3 brands to over 1,000 with 0 franchise experience when I started. You know what I have? Critical thinking skills. Critical thinking skills. You know, I say it all the time, the A students work for the C students. Don't think because you're an A, you graduated with a 4.0 that's going to get you anything. Hell, in most cases, when you go to apply for a job, they say, do you have a degree? Yep. They don't even ask you what. They don't even ask you, could you show us the degree? And now I'm not talking about if you're a doctor, an attorney, or something like that. I'm talking about in most cases. They don't ask for it. You know, and you're seeing that tide turn a little bit today in society, that college kids today, they're looking at it, many kids are saying, hey, look, this college degree has not given me any guarantee of anything. It's the truth. Whether you want to accept it or not, it's the truth. Just like corporate America's changing. The workforce, it's changing. If I went back to my office today and say, hey, you guys, I just had this thought this morning, and everyone, come October 1st, we're all going to be back in the office. Okay, right now our office is probably 30 to 40%, all right? If I called that other 60% into the office, I'd lose half of my staff. I'd lose half of my staff. And you think, no, wait, I mean, here's the old school thinking. Hey, Peter, that'll never happen. They're just thankful to have a job. That's my dad talking there. They're not. They'll quit, they won't look back, and they'll find another job tomorrow, I promise you. Don't be fooled by it. So don't go the old school route of just be thankful you have a job act. That doesn't work anymore. Yeah, yes, sir.
Oh,
yeah, over here. Sorry.
Hello, thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
So I'm listening to you, and I'm really, truly inspired because what I'm seeing is my future. What you have described about what you're doing with your life has been my heart desire that I'm working to build. However, I don't know if you were joking or not, but ADHD is really a true struggle, right? I actually suffer with ADHD, and I have the kind of brain where I have 10,000 ideas, all kind of great stuff. I create, I produce, I solve problems. But when it comes to the details that's necessary to succeed, that's where I kind of slow down because my brain is constantly going. So I don't know if you were serious, but if ADD is really something that you struggle with, how were you able to kind of use that to your advantage? Being someone that's big thoughts, but at the same time having the wherewithal to really take care of the detailed things.
Well, fortunate for me, I didn't have the H part. I just had the ADD part, no H, so I could keep myself contained in a chair. But for me, the rose and the thorn of ADD is if you're interested in it, you're like all in. You're like, phew, right? And if you're not interested, it's hard to keep me on plane, right? So for me, find something, and for all you, my recommendation would be find something that you love. So find something that you can find joy in. As cliche as that is, honestly, find something that is going to inspire you, that's going to challenge you, that's going to, and that's what I love about your space. I mean, my space on the grand level, what do I love doing? I love thinking of ideas, creating a brand, and then building it. All right? Because I build it to a certain point and then I sell it. Why? I'm not emotionally attached to it. I'm going to sell it. I know. In fact, when I talk to people with Forbes, when I'm consulting with clients and they have this great business plan, I say, what's your exit? And they look at me like I've got an eye in the middle of my forehead, right? And I say, well, what's your exit? I haven't thought about it. Well, let's think about your exit plan, because in many cases, they are the business. And if you're the business, I can't sell that, so I got to create redundancies for you so you can step away from the business and the business can still grow. So my word of advice to anyone that struggles with staying on plane, having one idea and staying with it, and if you don't know if you're that person, if you've had 10 different business ideas in the last year and you haven't followed through on any of them, look, you're one of those, and that's okay. But you just got to have the discipline now. Discipline, accountability, and perspective. Those are three of my favorite words. My fourth one is grit. But discipline and accountability. If you don't have discipline, you're not going to hold yourself accountable to anything. Okay, so it gets right down to, how do you want to show up every day for yourself? Because if you're not going to hold yourself accountable to any level, whether it's I'm going to work on myself, I'm going to work on my business, I'm going to work on my family. Well, look, whatever it is, just write it down if that's what you got to do, but own it. You know what? I can't tell you the amount of clients I talk to, and I got to say, hey, just stop. Because it's been 6 months. I say, would you just effing stop the bullshit? I'm just going to be real with you here. You're spewing the same nonsense you've been talking about for 6 months, a year, pick your date, right? Let's do something about it right now. Let's either do something about it, let's either take action, or let's just quit talking about it. Let's move on to the next thing. And they feel like they've just been broken up by their boyfriend, right? But I say, look, this is how it is. I'm just being real with you. Somebody's got to give it to you real, and that's what you pay me for. So I'm not here to give you pom-poms. I'm here to help get you to the promised land of where you see yourself, but you're not willing to make that journey. You're not willing to make the jump. We've done all the planning, and the last step, which might be some of you here today. You've done all the planning, you're here, you're right there, you're looking over it. You know the next step. You got to make the jump. You got to make the jump, and I don't care what it is you're doing, but you got to make the jump. Otherwise, we're just spinning our wheels.
Let's do one more, guys,
Yeah.
time-wise.
Oh, well, Morris has got the mic, so go up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Morris, then Nathan. We'll do two more.
Okay.
Peter, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, my pleasure.
So I know a little bit about your story. I know you started with one club. I'm just curious, at what point did you start thinking so grand to be a franchise and have over 1,000 locations? Like, what's the steps? How do you get there?
And for context, how long it took you, Peter? I know the answer, to get to just that one stage.
Yeah, well, the first break I had, I was 22 years old. I had an opportunity to turn around a failing health club. Okay, I was 22 years old, and they paid me $16,000 a year. But they told me, hey, Peter, if you can turn this club around, we'll let you buy us out with the profits. Now, most people would say, and the club, by the way, was losing $200,000 a year. Cash flow, losing $200,000 a year. So I didn't start at ground zero. I started negative $200,000, all right? And I was living in Orlando, Florida at the time. Anyway, I came back to my hometown to turn this club around. Long story short, it took me 8 years to turn that club around to where I had enough equity in that club where I could go to a bank, get a loan, and then buy the partners out. Okay, then I restructured it. So that took me 8 years. And then over the next 12 years, I added 6 more clubs to it. Okay, so I had around 6 clubs. I sold all of that and when I was done, I had $3 million in the bank. I thought I was rich. Okay, I had $3 million. I was about 40 years old. I had $3 million in the bank. For the last 20 years, I had been running these 6 clubs that I had. And then I started Snap Fitness. Within 5 years, I took an idea in my head and grew it to a $100 million company, okay, in 5 years. So I sold 40% for $47 million. Once again, remember what I told you? Take some chips off the table when the time is right. And so the first bite of the apple that I took, I pulled $47 million out of the business, and I knew at that time my life was never going to be the same. Okay, and it literally brought tears to my eyes when I was with my friends walking down the #1 fairway at Spring Hill Country Club, and my eyes are welling up. And my friends are going, "What's going on?" I said, "Damn, I did it. I got a call from my attorneys and my accountants. They said, Peter, the funds have landed in your account." And man, it just hit me like a rock. I said, "Man, I actually did it, right? I mean, it's not no more. I'm not chasing the dream anymore." Now, I did it. I got over that. I wiped my eyes, and 5 years later, I built it from $100 million to a $200 million company, and then I took another bite of the apple. Okay, so that's the process of think small, be small. I promise you, think small, be small. Don't play small ball. Okay, and when you wake up every morning, believe me, that person looking back in the mirror, you got to be your biggest fan. You got to be your biggest fan, and then when you look at yourself in the mirror, if there's something about you that you don't like, okay, because you know your deep, dark secrets. You know them. Be real with yourself, and it's almost like you got to have a third-person conversation with yourself, and you got to say, "Hey, look, I don't care if it's how you behave with your significant other or what. Look, whatever your dark secret is, you know when you're screwing up." Right? And you just got to own it. But you got to get to that place where that person looking back at you, you go, "You freaking got it. Now go get it." Because nobody else is going to do it. Nobody's going to give you a pat on the ass out the door, give you your lunch bucket. Those days, it's not it. You got to go chase it like a rabid dog. And that's what I did. And that's what I continue to do. I love what fires me up. This fires me up. I mean, I love doing this. But I love building companies. I love inspiring people and helping get their shoulders square and pointed in the direction of the promised land of that financial freedom, whatever that looks like for them. So no secret sauce. It's all here and here.
One more. Where was it? Right there.
Hi.
Nathan.
Hey, Peter.
Hey, buddy.
How's it going?
Good.
Wicked smart, family business. Your son's within your business. A lot of us probably are starting businesses to want family involved within that business. What does your relationship and your approach and expectation with your son or family members that you've worked with and what does that work and life balance and how you approach that?
It's a great question, and you know what? Having your son work for you is probably when I was starting this company, I knew that my son would be a nice asset, and I knew that it was going to be a great opportunity for someone. So I asked him, "Would you like to do that? I'm launching this company. Would you like to do it? I think you'd be great at it, but and I know you don't have any sales experience, but I'll teach you. I'll teach you everything you need to know about selling. But here's the part that I can't take away. Nobody's going to give you your fair shake. Regardless of how good you are, you're always going to be one of the owner's kid. And everybody's automatically going to think that you're getting special treatment and all the bullshit that comes with it. But you got to be okay with that. So, and the other side of it is, I'm going to treat you just like I would any employee. I'm going to give you the same opportunity as I give any employee. And you know what? His name is Max. I go, "You know what, Max? You wouldn't want it any other way." And he goes, "No, I don't expect any breaks, Dad." It's not. So today he's my #1 sales guy. He's absolutely killing it. But he works his tail off, and that's what it takes. So I lay the groundwork for him, letting him know, "Hey, look, this is what it's going to look and feel like." And sometimes it's going to be unfair and cruel, and that comes with it. But at the end of the day, work hard, and your success will be delivered on the merits of your effort. And it's true.